I need to dig into my tools here and clean up the bag a little bit, so I figured I'd turn on the camera and see what people think of a video about tools. I'm a homeowner, so I think it's important to have a set of tools available, you know, minor crises, little emergencies or whatever. A little bit of my background, you know, they say that you have 7 careers in your lifetime. Probably numbers 2 through 6, for me at least, involved either building something or fixing something. So I've got a little experience with tools and with using them, and you know, after years of forgetting stuff, I'm left with what I've got here. So again, it's basically a small toolkit that I carry around. I leave it somewhere and forget where it is until I need it again. Just kind of floats around the house. Probably should keep it in one spot, but like I say, I end up using it here and there. So it also accumulates stuff. The nature of it, it's sort of a, you know, tools. It's supposed to be tools around the perimeter and then a section in the middle for your task at hand. But what happens is it gets to look like this. So anyway, I need to clean it out, and I figured I'd turn the camera on, see what people think of it. So I've got this rusty awl that I actually bought at a used tool place one time, and somehow it got in here. Got a Sharpie, of course. Nothing else in the outside pockets right now. Typically I like to keep my pliers and stuff in the outside pockets because I use them a lot, and they stay pretty well with this type of bag. This bag comes from like Harbor Freight or something like that. It's a fairly cheap, made in China type of thing, but you know, sometimes you get made in China stuff and it falls apart. Sometimes it's just bulletproof, and this, you know, is leaning towards the well made. So I was just up on the roof here in Arizona. You know, our roofs are important, so I was up there playing around. That's some aluminum tape for taping up you know, gaps and pipes and stuff. Got a bunch of fittings here. Something I don't normally carry around in the toolbox, so that'll get stuck back in the big plumbing box, but again, it was sort of a task. The stapler, a real stapler that staplers the right way. I have no idea why it's in here. This one, well, this is my tool one, so this one usually lives in a toolbox. Hardly ever use it, but and it's super heavy, so it's nothing I would carry around. Again, working up, doing some plumbing and stuff. We have coolers here to keep ourselves from dying, and needed to go do some of that work this last couple of days. I've got a Magpul cover so that the lips are protected on a magazine. Why it's in my toolkit, no idea, so one of the reasons I go through it. I've got a small, just sort of, probably was a drill bit set or something. Yeah, it still is, a little drill bit set, but I kind of put a Makita and a Craftsman together just because I needed, you know, this particular set of drills. Something from pretty small to about 1/4 inch is all you're really ever going to need in a house, and it's all about pre-drilling holes just so you don't you know, get cracks and things like that. Usually I don't do much other stuff with a drill. Little triangle, just depends on if you're building stuff or not. Super handy little tool if you end up building anything and you want it to be square. I like to keep a couple of crescents, a big one and a medium size. There might be a little one floating around in here, but for the most part those two will do most of your plumbing stuff for you. Just a nice snap-on Phillips. Snap-ons are awesome because they're going to replace them for life. I only buy stuff that they're going to replace for life if I can help it. I think Ace will replace this for life, made in USA. Nice screwdriver, unlike a gunsmithing screwdriver or something. This one, you know, is meant to use just about everything. It's a pry bar, it's a chisel, it's been a little bit of everything. But again, when they're made to take it, they take it and keep giving back. Somehow I got like an earbud or something in here, like a old-fashioned before Bluetooth existed thing. And it probably fell in here because I see a little Cat 5 cable, so maybe this was somehow under something that got some stuff dropped in it. But anyway, again, that's why I clean it out, is to get rid of this junk. I've got a cheap pair of wire strippers. If you've got something like this, honestly, don't use it, throw it away. This is overkill, but you know, a decent set is just going to line up well and not have a lot of slop, and it's just going to last you for a long time. Again, these are probably a little overkill for most people, but I think a pair of wire strippers is a good idea. 5-in-1, or I guess there's other names for these, but painter's tool. Again, chisel, just a nice little sacrificial tool if you need it to be. But something like this one, which is a little bit more of a putty knife, some of them are a lot thicker and they're more of a blade. Something like this one I would consider sacrificial. Some of the thicker ones, you know, I've had for over a decade, so they definitely take a licking. I've got a couple of giant syringe things, you know, a giant medical syringe would have been in here. This was just its storage vessel, and it's disposable, and they throw away way too much stuff in hospitals. So if you know anybody that's like a nurse or works on anywhere near a hospital, you can get all kinds of stuff like this by the, literally by the garbage bags full. And I literally have a garbage bag of these probably laying around in the back shed somewhere. So anyway, this one is electronic stuff, and I'm not going to spill it out, but you can kind of see there. I guess I have a couple of washers or something in there, but little electronic doodads, odds and ends. I could probably fix like a short in a dishwasher or something, you know, to something in the furnace, to even, you know, replacing a household fuse or two. Now this was probably set up when I was doing a little more bigger AC work than I am now, so I probably could pull out some of those bigger fuses that I don't use at the house anymore. And then a bunch of screws. You can't beat drywall screws. I'll probably, if this video is interesting, if people want to see this kind of stuff, I'll get into these, because I'm not saying I'm MacGyver or nothing, but being a handyman type of job, you know, where you're the only guy going out to a place and you have to get the job done, there's not a lot of excuses. I kind of came up with these little kits that have just enough of what I was needing all the time. So there's a little thought into those. A couple of cheap gloves, and these aren't for anything more than keeping your hands clean if you got to do something gross. A bunch of 550 that for some reason I used and didn't retie. So I'm going to figure out, I just saw a video from the late Boy Scout who had a cool like wrap where the 550 wrapped onto itself. I'm going to have to check that out and do something like that with that so that it sort of spools onto itself. You can never have too many zip ties. Get good quality ones, you know, don't go to the dollar store. While I do own cheap dollar store type zip ties, they have their place. For something that you really want to get done though, you know, get decent zip ties, pay a couple of dollars more for them. A long electrician's type screwdriver is handy, especially if you've, you know, got to deal with something like anyway, electronic type of screwdriver is handy. Lineman's pliers, crucial. These can take anything. You can act like you can use them as a hammer if you get a good set. You know, go to Sears, go to Snap-on or something, get a pair that you can take back. This one isn't my favorite pair, but my favorite pair is basically a little bit bigger. But these can do the job, and they're decent. I don't even know if they are made in America actually, but you know, they line up good. And the lineman's pliers, you can use them. I don't know if you've got the kind of things, you know, outside sometimes we have some things that require heavier pliers like that. Carry forceps or little surgical clamps, mostly because, you know, you get a splinter out here, we get cactus problems. You got to have something to get that stuff out with. I've got a chisel in here. I don't think it's a necessity, but this is sort of one of my sacrificial chisels that, I don't know, I probably found it or got it in trade or something. I don't know how I got it, but it's not my favorite chisel or anything, but it's a fairly decent one. It might be Craftsman, I don't really know, but I guess it wouldn't be Craftsman, it would say it. So, but it's a decent chisel, and something this size, which what, a half inch or something, it would be, you know, not too big, not too small. So if you've got to work on a door or something, you've got enough chisel here. If you've got to do something finer than that, you're not dealing with so much chisel that it's impossible. So if you're going to carry one around, which I don't necessarily recommend, this is probably a good size. I'd probably be better off to have something over the blade, not just for safety, but to keep the blade sharp, because this one isn't very sharp at all. Craftsman, I think these are the Craftsman imported though. I forget, I got them so long ago. But Needlenose, and there's a big difference between Needlenose, long nose, and all the rest. Pretty sure these are the Needlenose, basically a nice long set. Wire cutter's great, but mostly I just want it long for if I've got to get in somewhere. And Craftsman, so that they're strong enough if you're holding a nail or something, they're not just going to smash and break. Or not necessarily break, but just, you know, get warped so that they're useless for you. Channel locks, again, I think I bought this in a set from Craftsman. You're looking for that lifetime warranty, you know, replacement warranty, and you're looking for stuff that doesn't necessarily need to use the warranty very often. These get just the crap kicked out of them, and I wasn't sure if I was going to like these handles, so I just did not treat them kindly for the first few years of using them, and I'll give them the respect they're due. They're holding up real well. A set of Allen wrenches. You've got to have something like this. You know, people have their own preferred ones. I like to go with the original real deal in metal instead of those like fruity plastic ones. Then I have even more, just because that's not always enough, and sometimes you need two. Not necessity, but something for me, you know, I've ended up needing it for setting wheels and stuff around the house, so around the office too. a pen, which I'll replace with something better. Okay, here is a small crescent, and actually now that I'm thinking about it, there might even be two in here, because having two little small crescents can be handy, depending on what kind of pipes and faucets and things you have. Good 25-foot tape measure. I don't do anything fancy. These things get beat up too much. Again, I want replacement, lifetime replacement on it, and then I want it to be able to handle falling off a thing once in a while. I try to keep it in the bag, but at some point I guess I didn't, and my old, or probably my grandfather's old 10-foot one. I'll tell you what though, this little 10-foot one is so dense and heavy that it probably weighs more than this more current, well, not new or anything, but a more current 25-footer. So definitely not something I would recommend carrying around. And a lot of guys are carrying around tools that have been handed down to them, and just because Grandpa used it doesn't mean that it's better. It's cool, and I'm not throwing away any tools, but there's no way I'm carrying this thing around. So I'm definitely glad I'm cleaning out the bag here, because this thing weighs a ton. Some Plumbers Tape. So it's basically just our Teflon tape. It's just some Teflon ribbon that you put around threads, not on gas lines. Cutter, and this one's Stanley, obviously for like a million reasons, and I probably should refill it with blades now that I'm looking at it. Just a small punch, a strong one. Not that I use this very much, but this one again is probably just something that got handed down, found, or whatever, so I keep it in the bag. It's probably a little heavy. It's something that maybe you don't need, but I find I use it once in a while. A small screwdriver, Phillips and straight. This is like a dental pick that somebody ground down or it broke, and we're reusing it. And again, depending on what you're doing, I end up sometimes having to do small stuff that's like, setting a wheel or something underneath a cabinet, and sometimes it's nice for picking crap out of the places that you don't want to have to use a good tool. Nice set of cutters. Again, this is probably that same set from Craftsman. A couple of chopsticks. Use these things all the time. So back in the day, these are older ones. You got some, or if you go to a fancy restaurant, I guess, you get some really nice chopsticks. Take as many as you can take without getting embarrassed, because chopsticks are awesome. Lots and lots of uses for them. And you'll see I've got a bunch of broken ones because I've used pieces of them before. I got a small channel lock in here, and I don't really like them. I use them occasionally, but very occasionally. Enough that I keep one around, but I try to do anything else besides use them. I don't really like them. This is just a cheap but fairly decent small set of long nose. I've got basically, I think it's just some screwdriver that somebody took to a grinder and turned it into not real sharp, but just like a awl, I guess, but I don't know, I'd call it more of a punch. Anyway, super handy little tool, just for all kinds of things, and everything from demolition to reconstruction. Just a handy tool. Just take an old screwdriver that sucks and take it to a grinder and have some fun and make one. Real handy. Some crap. A little brush like this, a little sweeper. This thing probably came with the dustpan, which probably got lost because it didn't clip together well enough. And honestly, who cares? I don't use the dustpan hardly ever. But even if it didn't have the handle, a lot of times I just happen to have one now that has a handle, but if the handle gets broke off, I could care less. But for sweeping up little job areas or surfaces and stuff, something like this is super handy. And this one I think is Ace or something. I bought it at an Ace kind of place. It's got like, I think 4 bits, big and small blades on one side, and then same thing on the Phillips, and it just goes into the handle. But it's got, is it 2 different, no, it is just one, no, it's 2 different size of bits too, so you've also then got 2 different size drivers right away. And just this, I've had, I don't know, probably a dozen of these, probably screwdrivers like this over the years, and you find a good one, go buy 2 or 3, because I do have 2 or 3 of these in the other toolboxes, so that whenever this one finally does fail, I've got a couple to go back to, because I just found that this one, for just doing hard work, was awesome. And it's handy to have this in addition to your real screwdriver, your single-use type of screwdriver, because those won't fall apart on you when you need to do something like tighten in that bare screw. But other times when you need 2, or when you just need, you're not sure what you're going to need at the top of the ladder, something like this sure is handy. And this one's a mix of solid and versatility. This is the crazy blue earbud thing off of that earphone. A pipe cutter, again, I was up on the roof using this, but I'd probably end up leaving a cheap one like this in my bag, just because I do end up doing some plumbing stuff occasionally. Another couple of screwdrivers. I don't know the brand on these. GB Electrical. Just high quality insulated screwdrivers. Depending on what you're doing electric wise, you know, a couple of size screwdrivers appropriate for the task are always a good idea. This one is an actual awl that's in nice shape, so it's, well, it is getting a little bit rusty, it looks like. I'll clean this up a bit, but having a nice one that's in good shape is good for, depending again on what job you're doing, just to you know, do a nice clean job sometimes if you're doing something precise. This is out of a suture, you know, to remove stitches, and you get these kits all over the place. Again, if you know anybody who does any kind of hospital work or works anywhere around medical, you can probably get these things by the drawer full. And I try to have enough of those around that if, you know, one of them's dirty, I can just go to the next one. A little Alligator Jumper. Depending again on what you're doing, these can be super handy in helping to troubleshoot or just getting bypassing a fuse or something for the time being. Some just, what is this, galvanized or zinc wire stuff, you know, just kind of a stiff wire. Honestly, I don't like it in this plastic thing, but because I'm such a lightweight, I don't use my bag very much. It's survived. Usually this stuff gets destroyed if you use your tools very much, but anyway, the coil is a good idea, and I've seen lots of ways to put the coil in a more secure little dispenser. I personally like cans, putting them in small cans or jars or something and just letting it spool out has always worked for me. But anyway, this is just a nice, it's sort of like stronger than a twist tie, more secure or more potentially long lasting than a zip tie, but again, just tons of uses for strong wire. And again, when you don't know what you're going to need to repair on top of a roof or something, what I'm trying to do is cover as many bases as I possibly can. Here's a cheaper pair of surgical clamps, and you can see that what I mean by cheap is that the teeth don't line up very good. So something like this, you know, I would use this for if I was holding a wire and I was soldering or something, but I wouldn't use this for pulling out a splinter. Then we got a couple of more jumpers, which again are just super handy depending on what you're doing. I like to keep some of the old telephone wire, which is just solid copper core. It's good for both using as a wire tie and also for electronic circuits. And then something like a lamp cord, which is 2 braided wires. And again, depending on what you're doing, you don't want to, you know, you got to use wire appropriate to the task. Super valuable, super durable. Basically, million uses for this stuff. It stays in a nice tight coil. The only problem here is once it gets about most of the way down, just buy a whole new one because it starts to get caught on everything and everything. So all that stuff stays sort of in the side there. I did a video just recently on the JB Weld, and here's some old JB Weld. Oh, I can't even imagine how many years old this is. Maybe I'll do a video on this stuff and see if it still works or not. On the other side, I've got a little bit newer JB Weld, and this stuff is just in a cheap Ziploc. I wrap it in its own cardboard, and then these have been opened. I can tell because of the punctures there, pliable. So I try to fold the cardboard around one so that they're separated by cardboard when they're wrapped up, and that's just so that if they leak, the two leaks, you know, the leaking stuff doesn't mix and turn into a glue. Instead, it just gets sticky, and I can potentially still use it if necessary. So anyway, I'm going to replace these though and put these on the shelf of the shop and hopefully use them up if they're still worthwhile, and then put new stuff into this kit. I've got glow sticks in here, and I am getting sick of glow sticks, honestly. Everybody always has glow sticks, including myself, and I'm too cheap to ever pop one off and actually use one, except for in rare circumstances. So, and what the heck am I thinking with a green and a red one in a kit like this? So, they don't weigh anything, but they're not going to stay in here. I don't see any use for them around the house. I got flashlights. A ton of little zip ties that I'll just leave at the bottom of that pocket, and then a fairly heavy-duty garbage bag, 55 gallon or 40 gallon at least, just so you can clean up after yourself. And a little set of scissors, I think. Yep, tiny set of scissors, and super valuable, keeping up your other tools and, you know, just doing small tasks. And now I'm going to go ahead and set everything back in here. probably quit talking because there's not much else to say. It did get a little junked up in here, so I'll dump it out over the garbage can and get rid of some of that crap. This particular bag has sort of a rigid floor, but it's just cardboard probably. It's got the 3 pockets on the outside. Oh, I should mention on the outside pockets here. In one, I keep drill bits, and I don't know why I have this fat one. I don't usually keep a fat one in there. I usually keep a really small one for doing quick pilot holes, and then I usually have like a 1-inch paddle type drill bit, and that way if I have to drill a hole for a piece of pipe or something, I've got it. Then I usually keep one filled up with Sharpies. The other pliers will go around the outside, but basically on the outside that's what I keep, is one with some drill bits, and then I normally would have some extensions for the screwdrivers as well, for the powered screwdrivers. So I got to resupply some of that stuff, and then I'll have a bag that can pretty much get me through most emergencies. And when it's all put together correctly, I'll have a big open area in the center. So again, if I'm going to be doing, let's say, electrical, I can throw a meter in there, I can throw in some electrical tape, and I'm good to go. Or if I'm going to be doing plumbing, I can throw in a pipe cutter and a couple of monkey wrenches or whatever I'm going to need. So anyway, that's my around the house toolkit. £13, 8.6 ounces. So here's what I end up with. I don't know, maybe half the weight. More importantly, it gives me the handles back so I can use the thing. It gives me that room in the middle that if I need to add some, again, other tools or even parts or materials or something, I've got room for it. The way I've designed it out this time, I've got the the ties and the materials on this side and the tools on this side. So this has got all the wire and rope. This side's got the tape measure, the Allen wrenches, and other tools. And then down below I have the drill bits and the little sweeper thing, just because it's such a pain to put anywhere else. I just let it get covered with everything. I also have the big screwdrivers down below. Depending on if I'm using them, I could easily stick them up pretty much anywhere, just in with any of these other pockets. But what happens is, because they're so long, they interfere with holding the handles. And sometimes I'll do the same with this long crescent wrench. If it gets in my way, I'll just drop it down to the bottom of the bag like that, and again, you get a little more clearance up here. It just depends on what I'm doing. I anticipate I'll probably end up needing that before I need anything else, so I probably will just relocate it up here so I have it quick again. I have those little parts tubes on this side along with the 5-in-1 tool, blade down, because otherwise you end up getting an unpleasant surprise reaching in when you got blades up. Got the crescent wrench on this side and that little clamp, and then well, we already talked about what's below. On this side, the rest of the screwdrivers and little stuff. And then on the outside, I like to keep the pliers. Well, on this side, I guess, real quick, I got the drill bits, pretty much nothing in this pocket. And then the scissors and Sharpies. And then on this side, I keep my Lineman's pliers right handy. For me, I know where these are, and I'm used to them, so it's not too hard to figure out. I know my long nose and my needle nose are behind it. And then I keep my channel locks real easy to get to in the center middle position, because again, when I'm reaching the handles and stuff, anywhere else they're going to be in my way. And then the cutters, again, having them in these kind of loose, strong, sturdy pockets, they hold open for each other. These have lived here long enough that they kind of fit in position, but basically you can use them. If you move the bag, there's no inclination for this one to fall out because its head is down in the pocket. Most of its weight, its center of balance and their center of gravity is down in the pocket. Unless it falls over, there's really no reason for these to jar out of the pockets. And this last one, I've got the wire cutters and just the knife there. So I end up using pliers more than anything, and having them on the outside is handy. The screwdrivers, when they're in their proper place, are easy to get to. Everything else is, within a couple quick movements to get to. So for me, this ends up being a pretty decent never know what you're doing bag. Friend asks you to come over and take a look at something at their house. If I go on a long trip, when we drive up to Vegas, I end up stocking this a little bit more with some parts for the car, but then we also anticipate if we have problems at the hotel, what's the point of waiting for some guy to come in and fix a leaky pipe when you can bring a wrench and just fix it. So we end up bringing this with if we're driving. Obviously flying, it's a little heavy, but so anyway, it's a good at-home and travel type kit in my opinion. And let us know in the comments if you're interested in a video like this. I don't know how long it actually went because it ended up being a couple of pieces, but if this is something you're interested in, definitely make your own video. I'm curious to see what other guys are doing out there as far as you know, not knowing what you're going to need type of fix everything toolkit.